This is problem 9.15 from Brigham and Houston, Fundamentals of Financial Management, Concise 9th edition. Here we're valuing a business using its free cash flows. So we projected free cash flows over the next 3 years, negative 11 million at the end of year 1, 17 million at the end of year 2, and 45 million at the end of year 3. Free cash flow is the excess cash the company has that is in excess of the amount it needs to actually run the business. So negative free cash flow doesn't mean they don't have any cash. It means that they're going to need to borrow or raise equity capital because they're using more capital in their growth than they're actually making. Once they borrow that money and build factory and equipment or whatever, then they start having extra money. And it also says that after year 3, the free cash flow, which is the money that's available to pay investors, whether they're equity investors or whether they're lenders, that's the money left over to pay off all that stuff. This free cash flow is going to grow at a constant rate of 5%. We're given a weighted average cost of capital of 11%, which is the discount rate for the free cash flows. All right, so what is Dantzler's horizon or continuing value? Hence, find the value of all free cash flows beyond year 3, discounted back to year 3. All right, that's the discounted cash flow model. If we're using, I'm going to use present value. All right, so the present value at time 0 is equal to the free cash flow at time 1 divided by the weighted average cost of capital minus the long-term growth rate of the free cash flows. Okay? So that's the same as the dividend discount model. All right, the dividend discount model is the price at time 0 if you have dividends year 1 over K minus G. All right? So it's the same basic concept. It's the same calculus. If you're wondering why they made you take calculus, it's that you'll believe that this formula works under these assumptions. The assumption is that the weighted average cost of capital is the true cost of the company of raising money, and that it becomes the required rate of return for all investment projects, and that G, that growth rate, is constant and predictable going out into the future. All right, well, using the horizon value, what we can also say is the present value of all the cash flows in year 4 and beyond, when there is constant growth rate, at the end of year 3, those would be worth whatever the free cash flow in year 4 is, and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or whatever. At the end of year 3, that'd be worth whatever that model pops out here. So to solve for that, what I need is the free cash flow in year 4. This is free cash flow in year 5. If I assume that's going to grow at a 5% rate, there's my FCF at 4. So to calculate the value of the free cash flows for year 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and forevermore, I can calculate their value as of year 3 using the discounted cash flow model. That's divided by the 11% weighted average cost of capital minus the 5%. Now that's the value of those cash flows at the end of year 3. It's not the value today, and that's what Part B is asking us. So if we're going to solve for that, I need to set up a timeline over here. 1, 2, 3, and it's negative 11, 17. I'm going to get 45 in free cash flow, and the company would be worth $787.50 at that point in time. So this and this $787.50 just simply represents the value of the free cash flows in years 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 out to infinity as of the end of year 3. Okay, so using the NPV function at 11%, the value of those cash flows in year 1, 2, and 3 is $612.60. Okay, so that's the value that it's going to be as of the end of year 3. That's the value of the firm as of today. All right, now the firm has $112.6 million in debt. So the assets are equal to debt plus equity. What we're saying is that the assets will be worth $612.60 today on a present value basis. $112.60 of that is stuff we owe to other people, so the value of the equity would be the rest. And that would be the equity would be valued today at the total value of the firm minus the amount of that value that's owed to other people. That's the value of the equity of the firm. The current share price, if there are 24 million shares, and I'm going to, instead of, let me put this as shares in millions, and that way I don't have to do any more complicated arithmetic. So I'm just going to put 24 million shares because that's $500 million, because all these numbers were in millions. Then the share price for each share, if all the shares are worth 500 million, then divide by 24 tells you that each share is worth $20.83.